We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
All right, welcome, folks, to episode 12. Hi. 12 of the Nerd Out With Me 90s
Wow, 12?
cast. Yeah, we're at 12 now.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, we're finishing out. This is the last episode for 1990, December 1990. Yeah,
I'm impressed. Neither of our livers have failed. And
that's true. We actually made it this far. Which is an accomplishment for us.
It is.
Maybe the biggest thing either of us have accomplished in our lives.
Our entire lives.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. For those of you who are just joining us, we are taking a long journey through the 1990s, starting in January 1990, proceeding month by month on a weekly basis, and talking about all the cool stuff from the 90s, like
movies and TV shows and games, video games.
Yeah.
And food. Shoes, maybe.
Potentially.
Glasses. Maybe I'll find my glasses in 1990.
So, yeah, we're doing this each and every week. We are Tig and Eric from Nerd Out With Me. You can find it at nerdoutwithme.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at those places /nerdoutwithme, and on Patreon /nerdoutwithme, patreon.com/nerdoutwithme, where for your very modest contributions, you can get a second episode each and every week with bonus content, which is always pretty fun and neat.
It is cool.
Yeah, as well as raw video footage of us recording these things. Because you could be either watching us on YouTube in a shortened version of these episodes or listening to us in the full-length episodes. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you get full-length, raw, unedited footage of...
Of this. Whether
I guess
some people enjoy that.
I suppose. I don't know.
Somebody
must.
Well, when you listen to a podcast, whatever your favorite is,
I don't have a single favorite, but I listen to a number of them.
Usually they're recorded live, straight up, right? They're not edited.
Well, of course, they edit them. Sure.
Okay, because I've been recently listening to the Joe Rogan one.
Yeah, very popular. One of the most popular ones.
I'm not a huge fan of him, but his podcasts are great. But they're not unedited live. Yeah,
yeah, because he just does it's essentially a radio show, what he does.
Right.
Right, yeah, and a lot of the big, like, Norm Macdonald does it that way, too. Okay. I love Norm Macdonald stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows that I listen to don't do it quite that way, though their editing is, for the most part, invisible.
Okay.
Let's see, what podcasts do I like? I really like the movie film podcast with Zachy and Brian.
And isn't there, I don't know if it counts as a podcast, but what was the one about the old game? It was the guy who went in the history of games you showed me? Like he did King's Quest or Sierra Games?
Oh yeah. Upper Memory Block.
That's amazing.
Upper Memory Block is fantastic.
Oh my God.
I really would like to, and I intend to do it. I really want to reach out to him and get him.
That would be amazing.
As a guest, because I would love to do a show with him. Yeah, I love that show. If you're into retro DOS era and early Windows 95 era gaming, listen to this guy's show.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he's so informative.
Yeah,
so good. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I like that a lot. There's a few NPR shows that I really love. Away with Words is one of my all-time favorite shows. I've been listening to it for years. And as someone who enjoys language and the evolution of language, it's anyone who likes that sort of thing.
Is that considered etymology?
Sure.
Or is it entomology?
Stuff You Should Know is a really good NPR show that every week it's just they just pick whatever topics they are interested in and talk about it.
I think I listened to that on the way here, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a really good show. I've listened to Film Spotting for a number of years, actually since it was called Cinecast in its first few episodes, and that's a film show.
They just pick one specific film at a time, kind of thing?
No, they do. They have a lot of different segments. They talk about both new movies and classics, and they have a lot of different segments and blah blah blah. They're like a smarter film.
Right.
They're not as loosey goosey as we are, and they don't stick to geeky stuff. They're hardcore film.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but in a good way. Yeah, that's a really good show. A bunch of video game shows that I've rotated through the years. PC Gamer used to have a really good show that I liked. And anyway, why the hell are we talking about this?
Well, because, it's good to give props to people who do good podcasts.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, fair enough. And gardening, because I'm now big into gardening the last couple of years.
Did you find a gardening podcast?
I listened to a couple. I listen to All Things Green. which is a good gardening podcast out of Texas. Husband and wife duo. They do a really good job. They're fun and entertaining. And I also listen to You Bet Your Garden.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on WHYY out of Philadelphia, but then his podcast gets syndicated through the NPR podcast feed.
You do entertain. You have to do what entertains you.
That exactly. It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
And so I think this episode is going to be fun. We have.
I think so. I'm looking forward to
fun stuff we're going to be talking about. This episode, which is on December of 1990, we're going to talk about some cool movies and other stuff.
What is it that we're talking about?
Ooh. December 1990, Edward Scissorhands came out. Very cool. The Sega Genesis.
Oh boy, Eric's wheelhouse.
AKA the Sega Mega Drive was released in Europe. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about The Godfather Part 3. We'll get to why that is significant for Tig. And in our Patreon bonus episode, we're going to be talking about the final episode of the MTV game show Remote Control.
Remote Control.
As well as, I'm sure, we will spin into all sorts of MTV era memories.
As is tradition.
How you could not. So after that very long intro, come back in a moment. We'll be back to talk about Edward Scissorhands. Tig! Oh, you're gonna shake the Cheez-Its box just as we start.
Eric.
Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands came out in December of 1990. This is directed by Tim Burton, as everybody knows. Written by Caroline Thompson.
Music by Danny Elfman, I'm sure.
From a story by Tim Burton and Caroline Thompson. It starred Johnny Depp. It was one of his star-making performances. Also starred Winona Ryder. Included Anthony Michael Hall.
I was going to say a very buff.
Yes.
Anthony Michael Hall.
Very buff Anthony Michael Hall. Alan Arkin and some others. And yes, indeed, the music was by Danny Elfman. So this is before Tim Burton became a cliche, right? This was when Tim Burton was sort of at his peak. He had done Batman shortly before this.
He'd done Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
He did Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. After his... Well, actually, here, let's get the exact... what? He did Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 85 and Beetlejuice in 88. So that really blew him up pretty big. Then he did Batman in 89, which was huge. I mean, that 89 Batman was just...
Oh my God, yeah.
It was a phenomenon.
Yep.
You remember everyone at school had the logo on and...
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Oh, huge. So in 1990, when he did Edward Scissorhands, that was a big deal because he was on a roll.
Yeah, this was a huge movie, which is weird because it's such a strange movie.
It is a strange movie, but it's especially it was huge and strange because not only like Tim Burton was on this amazing role as we just talked about, but it starred Johnny Depp in that weird knife-fingered outfit. Johnny Depp was just coming off of 21 Jump Street. He was in this absolute garbage called Crybaby.
Oh my God, you remember that?
Yeah, with wasn't Tracy Lords in that when she was trying to go legitimate?
I think so.
Tracy Lords, of course, being the pornographic actress who notoriously was in porn films from 15, 16 years old. Ricky Lake was in that too.
Oh my God, Ricky Lake.
Ricky Lake was in it, Iggy Pop. And then, did you know Johnny Depp actually had a role in Platoon?
No, I did not know that.
You know what his first role was?
Oh yeah, he was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, also Knife Hands.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
he was killed in bed.
That's right. But 21 Jump Street is what really made him a star. And then all of a sudden he's casting this, Edward Scissorhands. Winona Ryder was his co-star in this one. And she was in Beetlejuice prior to this. Lucas back in 86 and Heathers.
Great movie.
Heathers in 88, which was also great.
This was the height of her career.
And she was nominated for a Young Actress Award for Best Young Artist for Great Balls of Fire in 89.
Great Balls of Fire?
Great Balls of Fire. Goodness gracious, Great Balls.
Wasn't that one of the Quades?
Yeah, that was Randy, right?
Randy Quaid.
Was that Randy Quaid? Dennis. No,
Dennis
that was Dennis.
Quaid.
That was Dennis. Randy's the insane one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis is the non-insane one. So, yes, Edward Scissorhands, I remember this being pretty anticipated when it was coming out. And also remember thinking, like, what the hell is this?
Yes, and also, not to go off track with it real quick, but was this Vincent Price's last movie before he died?
Oh, I don't know. He was in it. That would be a interesting trivia.
I think he died shortly after making this movie, or at least it was the last movie he was in.
Well, I'm going to look at the Vincent Price filmography, and we will see.
Either way, weird movie, and it's weird that it was popular.
His last screen appearance was in 1992 in The Heart of Justice, which was a TV movie.
Okay.
And he had a voice-only appearance in The Thief and the Cobbler in 93. So, yes.
Okay.
1990's Edward Scissorhands was his last real film
where
appearance.
he acted in it.
Yeah, interesting. I did not know that. Gary Oldman. Oh, Gary Oldman and Tom Hanks turned down the part.
Wow.
Well, and so did Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise, Gary Oldman, and Tom Hanks all turned down Depp's part. I don't think any of them would have done it well either.
No.
Well, Hanks might have. Actually, Oldman would have as well.
Oldman would have. I don't know about Hanks. I don't know if I see Tom Hanks, though he did a very good Forrest Gump, so it's hard to say.
Hanks is amazing. Oldman is amazing.
Oh, Oldman I think could pull it off because he could pull anything.
If Tom Cruise had gotten the role, Edward Scissorhands would have done a lot of running. How do you run with those big long things? So anyway, Edward Scissorhands, right? Kind of a strange fable. Because it is a fable.
Yeah, and it's such a weird... I remember for me it was weird because I was a huge Anthony Michael Hall fan at the time. From the 80s.
I didn't know they existed. There are Anthony Michael Hall fans?
Farmer Ted. Like, think of all the movies he was in. The 16 Candles.
Oh, he's amazing movies.
Science, and like he was such
But nobody was his fan.
I was his fan because I could relate with that nerd.
Sure.
So... when he disappeared for a while, because then those movies weren't, and then he popped up in Edward Scissorhands as this, like, jacked bully.
Yeah.
It was sort of a disappointment.
You're like,
I was really upset that he was playing, like, the asshole that his characters... He played the guy in Edward Scissorhands that he was always, like, fighting against in all the other movies.
Right,
Breakfast Club, 16 Candles.
He's the character in Edward Scissorhands who would have been the one who pantsed him in Breakfast Club.
And he was like this big... like he played and I was like,
Was it in Breakfast Club, was it Emilio's character who was the one who pantsed him? No, yeah.
Are you thinking of Weird Science when they were like, yo, look at me, and they pantsed him in the gym?
No, because he was bullied in the Breakfast Club, and I also remember
he was the nerd, and Emilio was the jock.
Right, and Emilio Estevez's character was in there because he really screwed up some kid.
He like taped some dude's buns together.
Yeah, but that wasn't his character. It's kind of an interesting story, right? The whole idea is that Edward has scissor blades for hands. He's the creation of this old inventor, and it's kind of a very melancholy, sad movie.
It's such a
because he can't. He's a creation, but he has feelings, and he's. I guess he can't live a normal life.
Yeah, he can't get close to anybody because he's got. It's one of the weirdest concepts for a movie that became mainstream.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of it is so bizarre.
Yeah, the fact that it became a hit and was, like, actually successful is really strange.
And it only became a hit... Because if you really think about it, how many people go back and watch Edward Scissorhands?
Is there, like, a big deluxe Blu-ray version of it or something? I don't know.
No, see, that's the thing. That feels like it was one of those movies that Tim Burton did at the height when everyone was like, new Tim Burton movie coming out. And it came out, and people all watched it, and everyone was like, "Oh, that was so weird. It was so Tim Burton. It was so."
But here's the thing: I don't want to harp too much on the weird part because I feel like it's doing the movie an injustice to just say that it was weird. It was a very quirky and odd movie, but the movie had genuine heart. Like this. Edward Scissorhands is a genuine tearjerker.
Yes,
it is a tearjerking, sad, emotional movie. If you're into being moved by movies, which I am. It's a moving movie.
This movie seems the closest to what Tim Burton... I feel like, if anything Tim Burton made, the closest to what he felt like as a person.
It's funny that you say that, because Tim Burton himself cites Edward Scissorhands as his most personal movie.
Okay, yeah, because that's Tim Burton.
Yeah, he says straight out, this is my most personal movie. Like, if there is... For anyone who wants to understand what the Tim Burton phenomenon is, or why people are in room, or what, just plain what a Tim Burton movie is, this is the one that you watch.
Right.
This is the one you watch, because this embodies Tim Burton as a filmmaker and as a person, really. Interesting side note, you know who created Edward's Scissorhands? Stan Winston.
Really?
Stan Winston, probably the most famous special effects creator of all time, other than maybe Ray Harryhausen.
Right.
But, I mean, what didn't Stan Winston do? The whole Terminator series, the Jurassic Park series, Aliens, the first Predator movies, Iron Man, Inspector Gadget. So this movie launched the career, I would say, the stardom of Johnny Depp as well. Right, because he was in 21 Jump Street before this,
and he did whatchamacallit afterward, right? What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yes, yeah, he did Benny and June and What's Eating Gilbert Group? What group? What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Both in '93 after this, and yeah, Gilbert Grape was a critical turn for him. I don't think it made him a star, but it made him a critical darling. Because he was, to his credit, I mean, he's a giant star now, but he really always historically chose roles that were like quirky and interesting.
Yeah, he loves playing a character.
Yeah, and he was kind of a critical favorite for a long time because Gilbert Grape was a big critical darling, critical favorite. Ed Wood in '94 he did. I don't really remember Dead Man, which is his '95. Dead Man and Don Juan DeMarco in '95.
I remember Don Juan DeMarco.
Was that supposed to be his mainstream entry,
so.
But it didn't end up being, but that was going to be. But then I think in '97 with Donnie Brasco, that's when,
great movie.
Yeah, that's when he became more of a mainstream star. But then right away in '98, he went quirky again with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Like, the guy has always made. I have mixed feelings about Johnny Depp, but I give him credit. He's always made interesting choices over the years.
Yeah, he loves playing a character. He's like that kind of stage guy who loves to put on like the creepy stuff and become something.
We didn't really even talk about Edward Scissorhands in depth. The people are going to be disappointed. No, the people won't be disappointed because they understand that we don't talk with any sort of substance about anything.
Yes.
On that note, we'll be back in a moment to talk about the debut of the Sega Mega Drive, aka the Sega Genesis, in Europe. Be back.
最近ゲームがつまらない、はまらない、そんな噂が飛び交ってるけど、それはソフトのせいじゃない。ハードに限界があったからだ。セガメガドライブ16ビット CPU 搭載。限界のバリアをぶち破って見せる、迫る、うなる。ビジュアルショック、スピードショック、サウンドショック。
時代が求めた16ビットセガメガドライブ。
Tig!
Attic!
We're rolling.
Attic!
So, in December of 1990, one of the most amazing events in the history of the world happened. I think this is fair to say. It was actually November 30th, 1990. So
we're in the cusp.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of cheating a little bit by putting this in November, or in December, but I figure November 30th, counts. I'm also sort of cheating because in Japan, this came out in 1988, and in North America, 1989. So I'm sort of cheating, but I wanted to get, because Europe, does it count?
No, we don't live in Europe.
You're right.
If the shit came out in Europe at a certain time, it doesn't affect me as a...
Right.
When I was 10 or whatever the heck.
And what has Europe done for the world, really?
Honestly. Other than war and croissants.
And war, huh? What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Say it again.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. But I wanted this as an excuse to talk about what we will probably refer to as the Genesis throughout this discussion, but technically in Europe, it was the Sega Mega Drive. Came out November 30th in 1990. So for our purposes, December of 1990. Was huge in Europe, was huge worldwide.
And huge in Eric's home.
Oh, absolutely. The Mega Drive, aka the Genesis, was Sega's entry into the 16-bit home video game console systems. This came out at the time when the Nintendo NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, was riding high. the SNES was not yet ready to take over the world. So all of a sudden, you know, the Genesis was out there. It had already been out, obviously, for a while in some other parts of the world, and was just finally hitting Europe now. And during this era, for these first couple of years before, you know, until the SNES fully hit its stride, the Genesis, aka the Mega Drive, was huge.
It was and I think for most people, I would assume, it was NES, and then it was the Sega.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's how it went. For
like I don't know anybody that actually had an SNES when I was a kid.
I remember at the time, because I was, you know, a Sega guy from the Master System
right,
time.
You had Sega when everyone was playing Nintendo.
Right. So I was sort of the outcast because everyone had the NES. And hey, I won't knock that because the NES was awesome.
Right.
Awesome system.
You are a product of what your parents bought you.
Stop playing with the microphone.
I can't help it.
But yeah, I had the Master System. Everyone had the NES, and then when the Genesis came out and everyone converted, it was this sort of feeling like, right? See, I told you.
You felt vindicated.
Absolutely, it's like I told you.
Come on over to my house.
Yeah. And boy, that system was awesome. It was an amazing system. One, it looks cool, right?
Oh yeah,
because
design, everything.
It.
I was gonna say, the controller is sort of what we really use now.
It was definitely a precursor to the modern controllers now, definitely so. Yeah, I mean, it had that more rounded, fit in your palm kind of feel to it. The D-pad was sort of set in the same place that the analog sticks are now. It
was a good design.
When I play retro games, I use a simulated Genesis-style controller more than I have other versions, but that's the one that feels most comfortable to me when I'm playing those retro games. So, did you have a Genesis or Mega Drive?
Oh God, yeah.
When did you get yours? What do you remember about getting yours?
I think we got it. I don't know if we got it. I think we did get it when it first came out.
I remember this one pretty distinctly because this is the first video game console I bought myself with my own money. I even remember how much it cost.
How much was it?
Where I got it, the aisle, the location.
Well, you need to tell us. Come on. This is a good story.
I paid $238.99 for it. I don't know why 38. I have no idea, but that's what it was. It was $238.99.
Did you purchase it before, like, Christmas kind of thing?
No, it wasn't holiday season.
Okay.
It was out.
It was out already. Okay.
Yeah, I purchased it in the Toys R Us just down the street.
Did you have to like run to Toys R Us and get the slip?
No, I didn't have to run because it was out. It wasn't like selling out.
Right, but you know what I'm talking about. Remember the slips?
No. I think I was actually able to walk up with the box at the time.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I was able to walk up with the box with time. Paid for it with my own money. I don't remember how old I must have been, but I was young. I was, a teenager.
Well, it was 90.
Yeah.
So you were like a freshman or 8th grade or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I don't even remember how I got to the store now that I think about it.
You rode your bike.
Yeah, and I remember getting it. I don't remember what my first games were, but I remember obviously Altered Beast came with it.
Right.
And I remember there was this kid who I went to school with called Chris. I won't give his last name, but I do remember it. And he used to always brag about, I beat Altered Beast in 8 minutes or something, something like that.
8 minutes.
He was always a big braggart about it. So I got, as soon as I got back, I was like, Altered Beast, I'm gonna kick this game's ass. Altered Beast sucked in retrospect. It was not a good game. But this became my jam for years, and it's still perhaps my favorite era in video gaming. The only thing that maybe comes close is the late 1990s, early 2000s with PC gaming. A lot of that stuff. But this, so many of my favorite games of all time are Genesis games.
And this console, like you said, you felt a little bit vindicated because
totally.
everyone's playing NES and you're playing the original.
Totally. And they're talking about stuff that I didn't know about,
you didn't
right?
know. You didn't have a chance to play unless you went to a friend's house.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Mario Brothers because our local 7-Eleven, which is, for you guys not in the area, it's a convenience store, right? Just, or whatever the hell they can call convenience stores elsewhere, general stores, I don't know. But they had an arcade machine with Super Mario Brothers. But this was a big deal console. It's interesting that Europe got it so late
maybe Nintendo was doing so good at the time, like...
I mean, well, but the Master System in Europe was bigger than the NES.
Now, did Sega come with, like, weird attachments and stuff to it, unlike Nintendo? Was Sega... Because I don't remember, because I played Sega... But this was around about the time, and you were saying before, where I started going from consoles to PC.
Right.
And my brother was huge into Sega, because he was younger, so he was still playing it. But didn't Sega have, like, weird attachments eventually?
They all did. I mean...
But, well, the NES didn't really, though.
Yeah, of course they did. The robot...
No, I mean, aside from the robot, because that came with the robot as all bullshit, the whole, like... I mean, like, didn't it have, like, weird internet or something? Not internet, but, like, some weird
No, there actually was an internet connection.
Okay, with Sega, though.
The Genesis / Mega Drive was a hugely pioneering system in that way. You could actually... attach it to a modem, you can get an attachment.
Okay, because I vaguely remember that.
There was the Sega Network.
Think about that, man. 1990.
And there was exclusive games that you had to be on the network and play online. Exclusive games. And some of them, like, I don't think they've ever been even captured by, like, emulators and stuff like that. Like, you just...
Wow, they were just online?
Yeah, that was it. I don't think they're weird, but there was the 32X.
Right.
Which was sort of a bridge between consoles, and it was like an upgraded version. It was this big, stupid thing that you stuck in the top.
I remember that.
And then you would get it just exclusive 32X games that really weren't that big of an upgrade. It was a big flop.
Right.
The Sega Cd, you could also attach to this. You got the CD games. There was the 3D glasses.
Right.
But I don't think...
Had like a stand.
No, you're thinking of the Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, the Virtual Boy. Yeah, that's kind of a big collector's item now, the Virtual Boy.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it did also have? It had the a Master System adapter, so you could put the adapter on the top and play your Master System games on the Genesis.
Okay, I remember you actually telling me that, which is great.
That was great. That was like no, it wasn't my first experience with backwards compatibility because I had the Atari 7800. And so having that Atari 7800 sort of opened my eyes to the idea that, oh wait, you could do that, like have one system play another system's game.
They still can't do that with the systems now.
But that was cool with the Genesis, was that you had that as well. That you could, you had to buy the separate component to do it. But
do you have a top 3 favorite games from it?
Oh my god, for the Sega Genesis? Wow.
Just gotta narrow it down to 3, though.
That is really hard.
Because I know you have I know we did an episode where you had your top 10 RPGs.
You know what? Actually, I think I can do that.
Oh, sexy girlfriends.
I'm going to say what did you say, top 3?
Top 3 favorite Sega Master System games.
Sega Genesis.
Genesis games.
Genesis games, okay.
And are these in no particular order?
Yeah, let's go no particular order, because that's really tough. Herzog Zwei, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was pretty much the birth of real-time strategy games.
Okay.
You controlled this jet guy who could transform into a mech, and you had all these bases, and you would generate troops and send them out to capture further bases, and it was like one main base and all these side bases, and you were trying to control territory to eventually conquer the enemy. And it's a super fast-paced, super hectic game, like this hybrid of action and strategy game. Still holds up to this day. I played it recently.
Oh, you played it recently?
Still so good.
Number 2 in no particular order.
Number 2-ish in no particular order would be... Boy, this is so tough.
Yeah, it's tough, I know, because I know you're a Sega boy. So I know it's hard to kind of...
Golden Axe.
Okay.
And if you want to lump in the whole Golden Axe series, you can. But Golden Axe...
that's a popular one.
Yeah. I think most people know Golden Axe. It's a side-scrolling, slash 'em up, beat 'em up. Very classic. I always played the dwarf, because he was my dude. I usually, in fantasy games, when the dwarf was an option, I usually play the dwarf. Because I'm short and hairy. So. Yeah, I love the Golden Axe games. And then, finally...
Number 1 in no particular order.
In no particular order. Tough. See, I'm looking at a list as I do this.
This is tough, because, I mean...
I was going to drop, maybe Starflight, the Buck Rogers game, Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts might be it. It might be Ghouls and Ghosts. But I'm going to go with the one I probably put even more time into. And it's actually a PC port, Might and Magic Gates to Another World.
which we've talked about actually before in an episode, on a YouTube episode.
Yeah, and I think I still have the Genesis
you do.
instruction book laying around here somewhere. A huge, sprawling, open RPG.
Right, which was amazing for the time.
Oh yeah, and to be on a console was a big deal. In first person too. It was a first person RPG. Yeah, I absolutely loved that game. I played it endlessly. Just
Time well spent.
Yeah, very much time well spent. Yeah, and made me love the Might and Magic series. I ended up playing most of them on PC later. So yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I was still playing Genesis strong when I was getting into what would be college age or whatever. I was renting a house at the time, and
was Toe Jam and Earl on that?
Yeah,
that's okay. I will say
terrific.
I think Toe Jam and Earl was one of the ones I loved playing on.
Yeah, there was a video store. Remember when video stores were a thing? Video store just down the block from me. This house that I rented, and I used to go in and rent Genesis games all the time, playing.
Man, remember that renting games from
Yeah, cool memories. Actually, for folks who are listening, share your Sega Genesis or Mega Drive memories with us, because I know we have a lot of video game listeners.
Yeah.
Send them to nerdoutwithmeshow@gmail.com, or comment on the various places where you can comment, because we'd like to hear that sort of stuff and read them in a few episodes, or read them on air. So come back in a moment. We're going to talk about The Godfather Part 3. So this, of course, is the third movie in the crime trilogy, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, based on the books by Mario Puzo, The Godfather. It's a sequel to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, 1972 and 74, respectively. It finishes up the story of Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino. Huge landmark trilogy. This movie got a lot of... It won awards, it got mixed critical praise, and these days people don't look at it with favorable eyes, and I feel that's unfair for reasons we'll get into. But
I have a question.
Yes.
Before we get into...
Yes.
When was the first one? When did the first one come out?
1972.
And then the second one was 74?
Yes.
And then the third one was 90?
Yep.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Was it like a money grab or something?
Well...
Was the book related? The third one based off the books?
Here's the thing. I feel like The Godfather Part 3 is maligned to some extent, in part because the studio would not allow Francis Ford Coppola to do what he initially wanted to do, which was to title the movie The Death of Michael Corleone.
Oh, okay.
He initially did not want this movie to be The Godfather Part 3. He wanted it to be The Death of Michael Corleone.
Which would have separated it a little bit.
It would have made it clear that it was
its own.
It's part of that story, but it's different.
Right.
And it's very specifically about the death of Michael Corleone. That's what it was. And I feel as if it was given the title that Coppola wanted, people would have taken it a little differently. They wouldn't have taken it as a continuation of those two landmark movies. They would have taken it as a coda to those movies, which is what it really is. It gets criticized for some other reasons as well. He has his daughter, Sofia Coppola, as one of the main actors.
Oh, really?
And
she must have been young.
She was relatively young, yeah. I mean, she was old enough to,
Right.
But she was, she was only so in it. And I don't want to knock her. She's an amazing director in her own right, but she wasn't the best actress. They also brought in, I'm blanking out now, even though I'm looking at Andy Garcia.
Okay.
And he was not good in the movie either.
Really?
Now I know for you, this isn't really a topic you can discuss at all, because you, Tig,
have never seen any of them.
Which amazes me as a...
Which could probably get me whacked.
I feel like that aspect of it, though, is overstated.
No, I mean
more as a film guy, to not have seen The Godfather, at least the first Godfather movie, the first two.
See, I've seen Goodfellas a billion times, but that was the 90s, so I guess it's different. But for whatever reason, I've never seen any of them. And I don't know if it was more because I never seen them... they never played on TV anywhere where I would have seen them.
The Godfather was on TV a lot, and in fact,
I don't know.
A lot of people know aspects of The Godfather that were was never in the theatrical versions of the movies, because for television they took the first two movies and they cut them together in chronological order. The second movie actually doesn't take place in chronological order.
Right,
it's a series.
Flashbacks and stuff.
Right. So, but for TV, they made the Godfather Saga. They turned it into a miniseries, and that incorporated like an hour of footage that was never in the theatrical movies. And so there's all these scenes that a lot of people are very familiar with that aren't actually in the movies because they're used to seeing them on TV. Just growing up in an Italian family and so on, you were like, whatever, I get it. I see. But the Godfather movies are not like that.
Old school mafia stuff.
Very much so.
Right.
In a way, kind of refined and
it takes place in the 30s and 40s?
Takes place through many decades.
Okay.
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s.
Okay.
It's mostly in I think the 20s and the 60s, and then the third one, which we're supposed to be talking about, is set in roughly the time of is set in the late 70s and the early 80s.
Okay, so the third one's in the 70s and 80s.
Third one is set in the 70s and 80s. And
Al Pacino's character is like older at that point?
Yes.
And he's running the show.
The first one is the story of how Pacino gets into it, because Pacino is outside of the crime family at the start of the first movie, and then he eventually gets into it through the series of circumstances that I won't spoil for you.
Yeah, because I do want to eventually.
And by the second one, he is, he's the crime boss, and it's a tragic story. It's not a It's not a good. It's not like you're rooting for him.
Right. It's not Goodfellas style where you sort of fall in love with the...
Or even, and it's also not anti-hero style like The Sopranos, where you like him, but he's an anti-hero. It's tragic. Like, it's actually heartbreaking that he gets to be the villainous person that he is. It's a bad thing.
Right.
And it breaks your heart to see what he goes through.
Breaking my heart!
Yeah. So by the third one, he's out of it. He got himself out. He's trying to go legitimate, but... in one of the very famous lines, they keep pulling me back in.
They keep pulling me back in.
So
lines I know that I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize. Like the third one, it gets trashed all the time, but it's got tons of famous lines like that. Just like the other ones do.
How does it fall in out of the three for you?
Oh, it's easily the worst.
Okay.
Easily the worst. I mean, it's not even close.
Okay.
But it's. A lot of people think it's this terrible disaster, and I don't think it is. No. The Godfather Part 3 has a couple of things going against it. One, of course, is that the studio wouldn't let him use the title that he initially wanted to use. And I genuinely feel like that would have given the public a different impression of what it was supposed to be, right? One of the other things is that Robert Duvall was a major character in the first two movies. He is not in the third movie.
Did they have someone else playing his character?
No.
Oh, that's good, though.
Coppola wanted him, but as the story goes, I believe Duvall was asking too much money, or he was upset that they were going to be paying Pacino a ton of money and they wouldn't match him.
Right.
And so Duvall was like, well, then I'm not going to do it. And that is a huge, huge loss, because Bobby Duvall is like he centers those first two movies. He's one of the only guys, one of course, who was not like the overtly I'm an Italian mobster guy. He's just he's an important character in those initial two movies.
Yeah, so not having him in the third one kind of.
Yeah, I think I think that was a big deal, and yet people aren't wrong when they say Sofia Coppola maybe shouldn't have been in the role that she was. That is true. She was
shoehorned into.
She wasn't a great actress, but the thing is, it's still wonderfully directed. I think you know this as a film fan. The first Godfather movie is very famous for this montage series of murder scenes, and at the climax of the movie. Godfather Part 3 has something very similar that's wonderfully done. There's some scenes in the Vatican, because this deals heavily in the Vatican.
Okay.
It deals actually with the assassination of a pope.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's big. This movie, the stakes are much bigger than the first two, because it deals with international corporations and the Vatican and all sorts of crazy shit. But there's like Coppola. Coppola, I think at this point hadn't been the brilliant director that he was in the 70s. Right? Coppola had this sort of interesting career trajectory where He was one of the best directors in the world for a little while, right? He did The Godfather, The Conversation. Have you ever seen The Conversation?
No.
Amazing. You got to see it. Gene Hackman, fantastic. Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now, The Outsiders.
Oh, great.
Rumblefish.
That's one of my favorite movies, Outsiders.
Yeah, I mean, he was just absolutely amazing. And then all of a sudden, he just hit this wall in the 80s where he's not doing anything.
His doctor said, look, you got to slow down on the cocaine.
Yeah, like right after he did The Outsiders and Rumblefish both in '83, but then '84 he does The Cotton Club, '86 he does Peggy Sue Got Married, '87 Gardens of Stone, '88 Tucker, remember Tucker, '89 New York Stories, right? It's man.
Just so what? I wondered, did he get married that year?
And then, but then, 90 Godfather Part 3, I feel like he recaptured some of what was...
but it wasn't the same feel.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't completely. It was just this past week that The Godfather was in the local theaters.
I know you texted me or emailed me saying, like...
I was, yeah.
Hey, you jackass. It's like a movie theater.
Yeah.
Did you go watch it?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, you got to. And yeah, The Godfather Part 3, I'm kind of curious as to what other people think. Because it gets trashed so much. Like, do people agree with me that it's not as terrible as people say? It's a cap to the story. And again, I feel like if it was called The Death of Michael Corleone as it was supposed to be...
They should have, because it would have probably... More people would have went and...
It would have felt like an epilogue. It would have felt like a coda. It would have felt like, okay, this is not a continuation of that story. Right. It's just the end piece
Some producers were like, well, marketing-wise...
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. And Coppola was not happy about that.
He knew.
Yeah, and he was right. For years, he was talking about doing like a futuristic science fiction movie. I don't remember the title of it.
Interesting.
I think he's done directing. He makes wine now.
How old is he now?
He's 78.
There's a certain edge that you need to be a producer. I mean, a director.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of angst.
Yes, I mean he's 8 years Steven Spielberg senior.
I was just saying
he was like friends and
like when he angsted. That's what happens with Spielberg. And how about Lucas? Like when the angst is gone.
The thing is, I think Spielberg is as brilliant a director now as he was, except he does different types of movies.
That's the thing. He just realized interested in different things.
Yeah,
and went to it instead of some people who just keep trying to do the same thing.
Because Spielberg's action movies now are not very good. He doesn't do adventure movies very well anymore.
No,
but he does these historic dramas fantastic.
Yeah, because he loves that stuff.
He's doing one now. Damn it, I was just listening to a podcast. Actually, I think it was the Movie Film Podcast with Zachy and Brian. They were talking about a movie that he has coming up. And damn it, what was it? Was it, it's related to journalism, too. Oh, anyway, I can't remember. So whatever. we have to get wrapped up. All right, we'll be back in a moment to wrap this show up. And then we will record our bonus episode where we're going to be talking about...
remote control.
All right, Tig, we just... Oh, Jesus, you've got to do that. Really? Really? I mean, I can't edit that out, but I won't.
Don't.
Why?
Because I feel like that's our thing.
Not our thing. It's not my thing. Freaking chew into the microphone.
People love it.
No.
If there's anything I know people love, it's listening to someone else chewing food.
Oh, my God.
Don't people love that?
No, I can't talk about it on the air. Sorry.
What? Come on.
I have a thing with people chewing, but it's... All right, this is weird, and there's one specific person.
Oh, God.
And when they chew, it drives me
it drives you up a
wall. No one else.
Who is that? Your wife?
I can't say I'm not going to talk about it. But it's just this weird thing. So...
Wait, what? Is it someone we know?
Who knows? Who knows? It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
So we just finished the first year of the 90s cast.
I'm impressed. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Good job.
We're shaking hands now? All right. Technically, the first year is only the first roughly 3 months of the show.
Right.
But
we blew through 12.
Yeah.
That's 12 episodes.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like when you watch the first one, and then you watch this one, it has somehow gotten better.
Has it?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, as the person who edits the YouTube versions of this,
Right.
there is a huge difference between this and the first couple.
Hey, yeah, well, yes. Maybe that's so. Maybe that's so.
I feel like we realized that we have to actually talk about things that we say we're going to talk about.
That is true. Yes, yes. We definitely. I mean, we're prone to meander.
Which is fine. I understand. I was editing one at one point. I'm playing it for my wife, and we were talking about a topic, and she said she wasn't paying attention to any of it. It seemed like, and then I asked her if she was listening, and she said, "The only thing I found entertaining was when you guys were talking about Elio's Pizza." And I was like, "Well, that wasn't even on topic, but okay." I don't know.
It's a mess sometimes. Sometimes it's a mess.
Well, life is a mess.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone.
I can hear you call my name,
and it feels like. Hit the beat.
Remember how controversial that
was?
Yeah. She's kissing a black Jesus.
Yeah. I remember as a Dungeons and Dragons player, like,
oh my God, you Satanist!
You couldn't tell people that you played Dungeons and Dragons, right?
I remember getting that speech.
Yeah,
you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons, are you?
Yeah.
Weird time.
So, folks, we're going to wrap up this episode. We are going to immediately roll into our bonus episode for Patreon subscribers. If you don't know what that is, go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com.
Very good.
/nerdoutwithme.
It's in the description.
Yep, you'll find our page there. And for a small amount to help us, fuel us with beer and food and stuff like that, you get bonus episodes each and every week. The raw video footage of us doing this nonsense, so you can see what beers I'm drinking. For instance, right now,
yeah, what is that?
I'm drinking Hop Pun by Carton out of New Jersey. Excellent brewery. As well as also all sorts of other bonus stuff. We're going to be recording about the MTV game show Remote Control and probably MTV in general.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Potentially Carrie Were. So write us at nerdoutwithmeshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your comments. You can also comment wherever you're finding this show.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
YouTube. Or on your podcast feed. Please leave us reviews. Good reviews, mostly.
Whatever. Just leave us reviews.
Yeah.
Bad reviews are fine.
No, yeah, bad reviews are fine, too.
We're adults.
Well, are we?
Well, I mean, we're adults.
In body.
As far as,
it's like
the
Big.
Going around the earth,
it's like Big. We're like, do you realize that Big is basically like a movie about a woman molesting a child?
I even realized that as a kid.
It's kind of
when I
screwed
first
up.
watched it,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait, even as a kid, I was like, but she's... Whoa, this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway.
Penny Marshall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was Penny Marshall, wasn't it? So, yeah. Leave us some comments, notes, blah, blah, blah. We'd love to read them on air, yada, 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 etc., etc., etc. Thing. Like and subscribe, etc., etc. Subscribe and like and subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. What are those other things that people say? Like and subscribe. I have, for the previous episode, been Eric.
And I used to be Tig.
Yeah. Come back soon for the Patreon bonus. Thanks, folks, for listening. Bye.